Welcome back. The Mosholu Montefiore Community Center hosts a new program aimed to help young adults with long-term careers and educational goals. Recruitment Supervisor for Advance and Earn, Jahvar Duffus, joined me to discuss the program. Jahvar, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Now, can you first tell us a little bit about your organization?
So Mosholu Montefiore Community Center has been around since about 1942, and our focus is kind of alleviating some of the stress that our community is facing. Over that time period, we've focused on securing a lot of government contracts and also kind of raising money to assist the community. Our recent program is Advance and Earn, and our focus there is kind of working with youth ages 16 to 24 to help them complete their high school diploma and do their CDL and so on.
And can you explain how long the program is?
So our program is 6 months long, which is about 20 weeks for our youth.
Now, why was it important to have a program dedicated to young adults?
I think our youth in New York City are experiencing a lot of stress around completion of high school, or even if they do complete high school, it is what do they do after high school? Not every student wants to go to college. Some students want to obtain a credential, like such as CDL. And I think it's very important for us to kind of meet our students where they are at, especially because they're in such a fragile space in terms of that age group of transitioning to adulthood. And we want to make sure that we're giving them the tools to kind of adjust to that transition well.
So this is a new program. Can you explain how the program began?
So the program began in 2020 was our first cohort year. And I think our focus was actually taking a look at, what was the graduation rates across the city, because our program is specific for NYC youth. What was the graduation rate? And then also, what is the financial success rate of youth in this age group? And we kind of developed, the city DYCD, which is a program, Department of Youth, Community and Development, kind of focused on kind of expanding on what we noticed that this demographic needs and putting our money towards that. So that was our focus, was specifically for that was.
Now, I'm curious to know, you said that it was kind of launched or thought of around 2020. Was this at all in any response to COVID? Because I know for a lot of people, COVID did kind of shake up education just in general. So would you say it was possibly a response to that?
So no, it actually was not a response to COVID. This was something that we saw going on for a long time prior to COVID. In fact, COVID impacted us as well. We had to adjust to becoming hybrid, just like other school systems and other credentialing programs, to kind of make sure that we kept everyone safe and that we're able to credential our youth for a life after the pandemic. So no.
Okay. Well, can you tell us about, the training that this program provides?
Yes, absolutely. So we're two parts. So we're part academics and we're also part workforce development. So everyone gets workforce development, and academics is specific to our HSE students. We have a pre-HSE program and an HSE program. And what that basically means is that some of our students have to take a placement test, and the placement test will help us determine how much assistance in academics do they need. And then we place them in pre-HSE or HSE based on that. And then the workforce component is for all three tracks. So we help them develop cover letters, resumes. We help teach them competency skills that'll help them develop and grow within a work environment. Because for many of our youth, this is actually their first employment opportunity.
So I love that you mentioned that for a lot of people, this is their first employment opportunity, because I think a lot of NYC programs, they're usually introducing people to the workforce or higher education. Can you explain why that's so important, especially for the Bronx, for people in the Bronx?
Well, I grew up in the Bronx, so I can definitely speak on why it's important for youth in the Bronx. There wasn't much opportunities for me growing up. So to see something like this, it's very impactful. I also got my GED GED, and I went off to college. I got my bachelor's, and I'm actually working on my master's now. But from my experience on both sides as a youth growing up in the Bronx and as someone who administers services to youth in the Bronx, what I've noticed is that our youth don't really have many avenues that are assisting them to kind of hone in on that transition to adulthood. And if they don't get that, then it can become a very complicated experience for them that can lead them down the wrong path. So to have something like this early on to intervene within those ages of 16 to 24 kind of sets them up to transition really well into their adult life.
And I love that you kind of shared your own experience because I think a lot of the times, and maybe we're moving away from that, but there was a negative stigma attached to, programs that help with education, GED. And, first, can you say, do you think we still have that stigma? And then, why it's so important that, any education truly is important as long as you have it?
If we do still have that stigma, that isn't my focus, because one of the first things I tell our youth when I do intakes with them is that I myself got my GED. And it's very important for us to say that, especially for me, because growing up, I didn't really have a frame of reference for Black success that I can say I clung to that would help me visualize my own success. So I always saw my own failures. And to see how I've persevered through my own experience, I share that with our youth to help them contextualize themselves, to kind of help them develop or to mold themselves into who they want to be, and to see that that is something that is possible. A lot of the times when I talk to our youth, some of them don't even think that I'm from the Bronx. They think that I'm from New Rochelle or I'm from somewhere else. And I'm like, no, I'm from the Bronx, like my whole life. I'm from there, because we don't necessarily associate positive things with our borough. So it's very important to embody that for our youth.
I love that you shared that. So thank you so much. That's amazing. Now, I want to talk about the program a little bit more in detail. There are 3 sections. And as you mentioned, there's pre-HSE, HSE, and I believe the advanced track. Can you explain the difference between the 3?
The pre-HSE track, you have to tape. So we focus on reading scores. Reading scores is what we struggle with across the country. And we struggle with it specifically in communities that are underserved. So we focus heavily on the reading score because that kind of sets the tone for how you succeed in other areas that are required for completing the GED. So, to get a 501 in the TABE score would put you in our pre-HSE class. And to get a 536 on the TABE would put you in our HSE class. Now, there isn't much difference between pre-HSE and HSE. It just lets us know what we have to focus on specifically with you. So for pre-HSE, we focus more on math and reading. And for HSE, we focus on math, reading, science, writing, and English. And then for our advanced track, we're focusing on on helping our youth get their their commercial driver's license and their driver's license, because we know what kind of opportunities that can bring if a youth gets access to that.
So I want to talk about the fact that there's so many programs kind of similar like this in, New York City, which is amazing. But what I think makes this stand out is that there's a focus on long-term careers and educational goals, because a lot of people think just giving somebody a job is okay, but having a career, it really makes a difference. So why was that important to include, and have that opportunity for young people?
Well, it's really about the mentorship too. So like once they get the credential and once they get, the high school diploma, what are their next steps? We don't want to abandon our youth. So we also have aftercare services for our youth that last about 3 months, and we'll still always help them no matter what, because here at MMCC, we also offer a variety of other services that can help them. So we help our our students who complete HSE also go on to college. I'm a CUNY graduate, so I'm very focused on sending a lot of our youth to CUNY if they would like to, and then we'll also help them go to any college that they would like to. And as far as the commercial driver's license, it's really about kind of making sure that they have access to employment for financial stability, because we know that the requirements are raising throughout the employment industry in terms of like what level of education you need to have. So a high school diploma in some places aren't even accepted, aren't accepted, but a high school diploma in some places, if you don't have it, you can't get a job. And if you can't get a job, then you don't really have financial freedom. And that's our goal.
So this sounds like a really amazing opportunity and program. Can you just explain what the eligibility requirements are?
So you have to be an NYC resident and you have to be between the ages of 18 to 24. Um, those are really the main requirements for the CDL track. You actually do not have to have a driver's license. We prefer you do, and we prefer you have a permit, but you can have a regular NYC ID.
Now, this is also a paid opportunity. Why was it important to make sure that, this experience was a paid one?
Well, I mean, I think back to when I was a youth, which is why this is extremely important. I grew up in a single parent household with 5 siblings, so the finances were pretty tight. So to be able to be a youth and work on yourself while at the same time getting paid to kind of aid in that household for financial stability is extremely important. That's why.
Now, can you explain what the application process is like?
So right now I have a pre-intake form that's attached to our flyer. The pre-intake form allows us to screen for eligibility requirements to make sure that we are getting candidates that can be admitted into our program. And then we will just call them, reach out, we'll set up an appointment on Google Calendar. And in the Google Calendar, it'll let you know all the documents you need to bring, the time to come. You'll get administrators' contact information so that you can stay in contact with us. And then we'll see you complete the application and then put you in the system. And then you'll start the first day of our cohort.
Now, how can viewers learn more about your organization and this program?
So they can actually go to mmcc.org, or you can just Google Advance and Earn. There are various Advance and Earns throughout NYC, but there's definitely our program here in the Bronx. We service a lot of youth in Manhattan and a lot of youth in the Bronx.
All right, Jahvar, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
That's all for our show today. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Kibin Alleyne, wishing you and your safety and wellness now and always. See you next time.